Hey everybody, the plague can't stop us. It's Game Off 28. This week we got What You Playing segment, we got a Fireside Chat, and finally we got a Showcase of the Week featuring Murder by Numbers and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I'm your co-host, Brent, aka Arcadia, along with...
Andrew, no AKA, I don't use Twitter anymore.
Oh. Wait, I saw you post something harassing some customer service people, is that...
Yeah, okay, so yeah, if you're looking to see me harass Wish.com's customer service department, then it's at Solitalker on Twitter.
Yes, you won't regret that, Ed, trust me. Quick update on the show. This week we're going to be doing separate tables. So last week we just had one big table and we ranked all the games. This week we're going to have a Brent table and an Andy table so that we can just do our top 8 and pit them off at the end of the year, or maybe even more, depending on how many games we play this year.
I think it'll make it a lot easier to visualize in your heads where everything lands. It'll be a lot more exciting as we're putting 2 number 2s this week, or number 1s. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely be putting up a number 1 this week. Spoiler. Watch the last episode because the game I played went from no list to number 2, and there wasn't even a number 1 yet. But yeah, check that episode out. Hey Andy, what you been playing?
I started playing that Rainbow Six Siege again.
Oh,
remember that one?
That's still pretty popular
that's still
here.
Happening, yeah. It's shocking. I bought that on launch way back 5 years ago, I think it was, and had a lot of fun with it, despite a lot of balancing issues if you were playing against bots or you weren't playing with a full squad, which obviously no multiplayer game gives a shit about. The developers never care if you're having fun playing against bots or if it's well balanced. So, that was just me yelling into the wind back 5 years ago. And it's gotten a lot better since then. They've added a ton more operators. They've added a ton more maps. Is that the gist of what they add to that game? Is just like more operators, more maps, or? I believe so. They've done some like temporary game modes. Like the reason I got back into it was last weekend. They essentially added Man with the Golden Gun mode from, or it's like not less that, more like Instagib from Unreal Tournament, but with a golden deagle. Everyone on the map has a single shot golden deagle that does one-hit kill. Okay. And so, it was just like we were actually talking last week about that idea of mutators and, more creative multiplayer modes. And this was, playing a tactical, kind of quick-paced game like Rainbow Six Siege, but with one-hit kills on a golden pistol was kind of fun.
That sounds pretty fun. I've never played the game at all, so I have no concept of how different that is from the core experience, but... there's a bit of tactics to it. You're either doing a kind of CT versus terrorists, just kind of hunting each other down, or defending a spot where bombs have been planted long enough so that they detonate, or trying to rescue a hostage. Just kind of imagine, like, Counter-Strike if it was more. If there were more weapons, if the environment was a little bit more reactive, like you can shoot through or breach through walls, you can shoot through or knock holes in walls to just kind of get a view into a room and fire through there. There's a lot of rappelling down buildings. It's like CSGO, but with more. Great.
I'm sure purists of either one of those games would hate that comparison.
How does it compare to the old Rainbow Six games?
Oh, I used to play a lot of Rainbow Six 3 and Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2. And it is probably most similar to Rainbow Six Vegas. Almost imagine Rainbow Six Vegas if you took away the cover mechanics. Okay. So that same kind of, like, speed and the amount of damage you're taking versus you're doing. Yeah. But, without the cover mechanics, completely first person, and very much all these operators with, I'm sure, initially they were semi-realistic specials, but they're now, you can't be seen by cameras because of some weird wrist gadget you have. Level bordering on sci-fi. What was that Ghost Recon game that took place in the near future?
Advanced Warfighter?
Was that it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that one. It's stuff out of that where it's like it's a drone. It's essentially
Yeah.
magic, but we could describe it with technology, kind of. But it's still a very vibrant game, and if you played it back then, 5 years ago, and enjoyed it, the $40 it takes to, I think it's $40 to get all 5 seasons that have come out since then of content.
Sounds like pretty good value.
Yeah, it's essentially like it feels like you're buying a sequel to the game with just the amount of new stuff that's there.
Yeah, yeah. Ubisoft is starting to, I hope, learn from some of their mistakes.
I thought that too, but then when I closed out of the game, it asked me if I was interested in checking out the video for the latest Division 2 DLC, and I was, right, yeah.
Yeah, shameless.
Yeah. It's hits and misses. Hits and misses with Ubisoft there. But if you're out there, you played Rainbow Six Siege, thought about getting back into it because you saw some interesting videos or GIFs on Reddit, it's worth it. It's still a good game.
I don't know. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's still progress, right?
Yeah. How about you? What have you been playing?
I finally got around to playing Nier Automata, a game that came out a couple of years ago and has been very highly rated on almost everyone's list, and I just never got around to playing it.
I've heard nothing but good things about that game.
So to truly beat the game, you need to go through 3 playthroughs, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through my second playthrough, and my god, this game is so good. It's so fun. There's no other game like it that I can think of, because you have almost like bullet hell mechanics in a game that's also like very much a Platinum Games action slasher, with all sorts of like RPG mechanics, very unique ones too. Like you have a chipset and you have to fill it up with different skills, and those skills can also be like UI elements. So if you're just like, I don't need to see my health bar, I'm gonna free up like 5 CPU, you can do that and then put in like more attack or something.
That's an interesting idea.
It's very cool. So much of this game is thinking outside the box. There's technically 26 different endings, I believe. Most of them are considered bad endings, so like you can eat a fish and just die, and then that's considered one of the endings. So technically I have 5 different endings completed, but only 1 playthrough. So it's a lot of fun. It's really difficult to truly explain. I'd say watch a video and then like just try and find something that really shows you how like charming and quirky the game is without being like annoyingly quirky. Like it's just so out of the box. That's the only way I could describe it. It's a very impressive experience.
Now, do you think that you will play it to get other endings other than the ones that you've kind of come across this run through?
Oh yeah. I think I'm gonna go for 100% in this game, depending on when Persona 5 Royal arrives at my door. If Persona 5 arrives and I'm only like a third of the way through, like there's no way I'm gonna do it. But I think it's coming late, which may buy me some time. To do all of it though, I think it only takes like 40 hours, so don't be completely intimidated by that 26 endings number.
That's not too bad. 40 hours is not too bad for a game like that.
Yeah, your like side quest progress, for the most part, follows you through your playthroughs. So if you putz around and do a bunch of shit in the first playthrough, you don't have to worry about like redoing that if you want to get more XP and like get your weapons back, because everything carries over, all your items and everything.
Okay, so it's kind of more like a new game plus-ish thing.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a completely different experience. So you play as a different character on your second playthrough, even though it's the same game. And apparently the third playthrough is actually like beyond what happens in the first 2 playthroughs, but I don't know how that plays out yet. There's a lot of the map I haven't seen in my first 2 playthroughs, so that may very well be like a whole second part of the game that I just haven't seen yet.
Now, because the fact that there's multiple playthroughs that lead to multiple endings was something that I heard about in most reviews of the game. Is it obvious that you need to play it through multiple times to get everything?
Absolutely not. I think I was very satisfied with the ending for the A route, which is just you play it through that first time. But I loved the game so much that I just immediately started a second playthrough, and I found out just how different like the second playthrough is, even though it's the same series of events. Especially since you play as a different hero who has a completely different skill set. So instead of even having like a light attack and a heavy attack, you have only a light attack, but you suddenly have hacking powers. So it just changes the entire game. But you and this other character on the quest together, you just like, it'll branch off at certain points. So you'll just experience completely different things.
I like I like what you said earlier about kind of slotting in and out stuff and freeing up memory. That's an interesting mechanic.
Yeah, I ended up taking off like my XP bar and like the thing that tells me when my range skill is off cooldown, like a bunch of stuff so that I could free up just like a little bit more, so I can get like 30% extra health and stuff like that. Because like the big things cost more of your CPU. So you have to make sacrifices later on. Like you only have like 128 CPU points, whatever you want to call it. So you have to be pretty fucking judicious with them.
You ever play Tron 2.0?
No.
Okay, we're going back 17 years?
On my day.
Tron 2.0 had a similar mechanic. It takes place in Tron World, and you are a Tron thing in the Tron game.
Tron boy.
I don't want to get too deep into lore here.
Fair.
But you equipped abilities and devices, and they took up a certain amount of memory in your brain. And you'd have to like rearrange things in your brain to fit things better, and you could defrag the processes running in your brain to make them run better, or people would attack you and certain things like your ability to heal or your ability to target things would become infected with viruses that you had to manually do virus scans on.
That's very cool. It sounds way ahead of its time.
There was a really cool idea, and you could get like, you'd have, a weapon and you get the next version up of that weapon, but it took up more space in your brain and it required more power. So there were times where it might make sense to not upgrade.
Yeah.
Because you were just, you were already running at a very thin margin. I didn't mean to completely co-op your discussion to bring up something that's 20 years old again.
No, it is like a kind of similar mechanic because you do have to manage where it is, but it's completely vertical, so it's not that hard.
Okay.
And you can optimize it so that it basically, defrags it and squishes it all together, so you can just plop things on the bottom of the stack.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's a more streamlined version.
Not as advanced as Tron 2.0, you're saying.
Yeah, I guess
still
not.
Cool.
No antivirus scans and shit like that.
If I just started installing that now, would that screw with? I'll wait till later.
for the best. It's also should note Nier's going to be on Game Pass in some shape or form. I assume that's console, but it may also be PC. So it'll be fucking free by the time this podcast goes up, or quote unquote free. So fucking just check it out, please.
That might be the time where I finally get around to playing it. If I'm done with Power Rangers Battle for the Grid by then.
Kid does want to actually beat Power Rangers, because I think that's just a lifestyle you're living now.
Oh God, I hope. Fingers crossed.
Oh, all right. Fireside chat time.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, grab your pipe. Andy.
Brent.
Andy. How have you been keeping yourself sane, or have you already forgotten how to speak to humans during this time of pandemic crisis?
I've never really known how to speak to humans, per se. I've known how to speak at humans, around humans, in the general direction and vicinity of, but never in a kind of back and forth way.
Never forming true connections with people.
No, because it makes it more difficult to choose the bad dialogue options when you do. It's just, you see someone like Atten Rand and you just feel bad treating him badly. You want to do the best for Atten Rand.
God.
But
This actually reminds me a lot of Nier again, because a lot of the game is about robots coming off the network and sort of becoming autonomous.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them play into that. Just like, how do I deal with other machines? I don't know what they're thinking. I can't read between the lines. And I'm like, oh, same, buddy, fucking same.
We've because we have a chillin', it makes it, it fills up a lot of the day. And because I'm not on furlough or anything, I'm still working, that fills up a good portion of the day as well. That helps a lot. In the evening, though, I've been playing a lot of Stardew Valley, doing handcrafts like cross-stitching, watching reruns of Reba, baking bread. I made some crackers today. I made some they're like oyster crackers, but they're kind of herby. Like if you imagine like an oyster cracker with herbs worked into it, they're really, really pleasant. Obviously, I'm not gonna. Yeah, they're really good. Yeah, I'm not gonna be watching any Reba tonight because I'm recording with you here. But
sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I know how much you value your Reba time.
There's gonna be a person listening to this that's gonna think some of the things he said are jokes and not what really happened, and they're gonna be sorely mistaken.
No human lives like this. They can't. They can't.
I'm fairly certain I've heard him describe himself, as not being a 65-year-old widow, and so he couldn't possibly be doing all those things. But no, that's about it. We've done a good amount of cooking. Occasionally, I'll just go down and take a look at our inventory, our stores of food, and just make sure that it's all still there.
In case the banditos are breaking in your cellar
well,
doors.
Once you go into sleep, it just kind of fades to black and fades out, and then you get a prompt of everything that happened while you were out. And some stuff could go bad due to spoilage. People could rob you in the middle of the night.
You do live in a dangerous area.
I live in a very dangerous part of the country.
Should have built that fucking moat, man. Should have built the moat.
Yeah, our homeowners association turned us down for that, and they're clearly more powerful than I'll ever be. Now,
they're the ones running this country.
What about you? What have you been doing to keep sane?
I've definitely been playing more video games than ever. I don't know if that's keeping me sane or not. You ever play video games for like 10 hours straight and then try and talk to people and it just like fails? It's like you get like a hard game over and you're like, I'm gonna go away now. That's how I feel most days.
I remember a friend of mine from, must have been back in 7th grade. I just introduced him to the first XCOM, and he and I were playing XCOM at his house for probably 8 hours straight. And he got up and he walked to the door, and then he stood there because in his mind he had run out of action points and his turn was over. And there was about 30 seconds of him standing there, and then him laughing hysterically as he realized, no, I'm a human in the real world. I can just interact with the world at whatever speed I wish.
His calorie points should have been more than enough to get him to the bathroom.
You would have thought, but you know how it goes with those kind of 10-hour game sessions. You forget about food.
Yeah, that's true.
So I 100% understand where you're coming from there.
Yeah, and I'll start worrying when I just start barking at people in retort, but until that day comes, I'll just continue drooling and mouthing words at them.
Well, then you can just start doing, getting back into your DMX cover band work.
Yeah, just the hype man for DMX.
Yeah.
That was a job I remember fondly. Where the hood at? All right. Showcase time?
Have you listened to the lyrics of that song? It's like the worst possible song.
No. Go on.
No, anyone who, because Where the Hood At has a lot of great energy. It's a very let's get going, let's do this kind of song.
Did he misplace the hood though?
No, like the first 2 or 3 verses are just some of the most homophobic shit you've ever heard. It's horrible. I never really listened to it outside of the chorus for quite some time, and then I finally looked. I was like, wait, did he just? And read through, like, oh, this is the worst possible thing.
Oh,
so,
no.
yeah, take that off your hype mix.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I'll look it up later just so I can bleach my eyes.
Yeah, just so you can know that the true depths of depravity that is DMX.
It's a mystery why he's not around anymore.
He did that performance of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer on some radio show a couple years ago. That was
God. Yeah. I heard that on the radio a few times since then.
Yeah, they really liked playing that one.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, can't win them all, DMX or any of them.
You want to tell us about Ori and the Will of the Wisps?
What? Yeah, sure. Showcase Ori and the Will of the Wisps. So, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, second game in the Ori franchise. In the first game, you are running around a blind forest in a 2D setting, absolutely beautiful. And Will of the Wisps takes place in a different place, but very much the same art style. It's like almost cartoony, but it's so like shaded perfectly. It's very otherworldly and like glossy and dreamy at all points in time. Style-wise, the game nails just about like everything it's going for. I couldn't find anything wrong with how they designed this game. But Ori is basically this little light spirit. So he has a family now after the first one. Not from breeding. Don't worry, he didn't bone down. He just sort of him and his island of misfit toys family. They're having a little thing with their new owl buddy, and him and the owl buddy learn how to fly, or he learns how to fly on his owl buddy's back, and they go off to this new land, where the sadness starts happening because nothing good happens after that. So it's a very fucking sad game, but I won't spoil anything. But yeah, it's a 2D platformer first and foremost. It also has some Metroidvania mechanics. I wouldn't go as far as to call it a Metroidvania. It's very much a platformer, a fast-paced, punishing platformer, oftentimes frustrating. And it really does nail the platforming aspect. It's basically you're jumping around, dashing around, leaping through the air, like two, 3, 4 jumps, dashing, fucking climbing on walls and shit. It's truly an adrenaline rush, like moving around in this game, but it has a lot more problems than just the fact that it is like a more frustrating experience
Than the first one?
Well, yes and no. When I got to play this game, which was like pretty much right after release, it's still pretty buggy, and a lot of the times I died were from like fairly frustrating reasons. Some of them were actual like platforming related mistakes, and then sometimes it was like, oh, what the fuck? Like, how was I supposed to do that? Like, I found the bosses either like perfectly designed or maddeningly frustrating because they're all so big, and if you touch their bodies you're taking damage, so you have to like somehow find perfect space between you and the boss, but your attacks like bring you closer to the boss. Stuff like that was frustrating, but yeah, overall that's the general Ori experience. The Metroidvania mechanics are basically like find new abilities that let you go through new places, but they're almost all story related, so I can't even really consider that like Metroidvania style. It's
okay.
It is in that it's 2D and that you can't go to some places until you get an ability, and you can also increase your life and stuff.
Okay.
Questions for me?
Okay, I didn't want to cut in until you're ready. You're ready for me to cut in with my biting questions. Is this game about people coming to terms with things?
Not. So I didn't. Full disclosure, I didn't completely beat the game. I'm well over halfway though, so I would say no, because the first one's very much about your dead friend who dies in the first like minute of the game. Mm-hmm. And the whole overtone is sad, but like this one starts off very different. It's like you and like three other members of your quote unquote family, and like when Ori and your owl buddy go missing, the other two are like distraught and like they go out looking for them. So it's not really about grief. It just seems to be more of a more traditional story, like adventure story.
Is the story a big part of the experience?
No. It hits some emotional tones every once in a while, but it's literally, like I said, like you're missing somebody, you find that person, other stuff happens, yada yada yada. No spoilers, but it's just to sort of drive to keep you in this world. Basically, it really doesn't have anything to do with the gameplay.
Okay. You made a pretty interesting distinction there that you didn't really consider it a Metroidvania. Why is that?
I think that most of the game is platforming. I'd say that the Metroidvania parts of it are basically the exploration parts, which aren't really that bountiful. There really isn't that much to explore. Most of the map is just straightforward. Like, you go here, you go inside this place, do the thing. You can miss out on a lot of like the money in the game, which is like light or whatever, and you can definitely miss out on some like life bubbles. I think at the time I was at, I had 10 life bubbles, and it's not like a Zelda game where you get one every time you beat a boss. If I didn't go looking for them, I would probably still be at 3.
Okay, that's harsh.
So yeah, so like you can definitely be rewarded for exploration, but it's not so much like you go and find a thing that's hidden and then you can do other things that are also hidden. It's like if you go slightly off the beaten path with most of the abilities that you have, like you should find everything you're looking for.
Okay.
Most of the challenge again comes from platforming.
Is it open? Like, is it like in a Metroidvania? Are you running around a lot, backtracking, exploring organically, or is it more linear?
Oh, it's definitely open.
Okay.
You backtrack a little bit, not a whole lot. You do have warping available in the game. I don't think that has any bearing on whether it's a Metroidvania or not, but you can move around the map pretty quickly. You don't really have to go back for anything other than in a couple cases early on before you unlock warping. But yeah, you can play it pretty much entirely linearly.
Oh, okay. All right, so yeah, that doesn't sound a hell of a lot like a Metroidvania then.
Yeah, and like maybe that's different later on. Like maybe the map changes like a lot, like right towards the end of the game or something like that, and suddenly there's a lot more stuff. But pretty much, you'd look at the map, you'd see, oh, like that area is dark. It's not like some of them where you see like a clear like blue gate or a purple gate, and it's like, oh, I need to wait to get to the purple ability before I can go there.
Right.
It'll just be like grayed out, and you won't be able to tell why the fuck you can't get through those places. And you'll be like, and then you'll go back and you'll be like, oh, I couldn't get through here because there's like a stone wall here. Thanks map. Can help me out a little bit here. In those situations, it felt more like a Metroidvania.
Does it feel like I should play the first one? Should I play the first one to know what's going on in this game?
No. They don't really tell you anything or allude to anything from the first one. If you started this game, you'd be like, oh, it's 4 cute bros and they're doing their bro things, and then stuff happens. Like you don't even realize that the owl bro is actually related to the first game because it doesn't matter at all. So I would say just play this one or play the first one. They're both pretty fucking good games.
I do like cute bros.
Ori's fucking adorable. Every time he's shouting for his bro, he's just like, "Ooh," and you're like, "Oh, that breaks my heart."
How's the combat?
Combat's pretty good. You can sort of pick and mix your ability set and change the abilities you have keyed up on the fly. I played it on Xbox, so I assume it handles similar on PC, but you only have 3 abilities bound at any time, which kind of sucks. But you can swap them out pretty quickly by holding down the left trigger and then rebinding them. So props there, I guess, but also there probably should just be more bindings because I never ended up using like 3 or 4 of the abilities because I couldn't find any practical use for them.
Maybe that'll come up a little later, or have you basically seen everything that's there is to see for abilities?
Yeah, the skills that I bought or didn't buy at all, like they just didn't seem practical, and the ones that I did buy and invest in, I just never found a use for because you pretty much always need like the same 3 abilities bound, so you get into this lazy habit of just being like, oh, I can make do with these 3, so I don't have to rebind every 2 seconds.
I get what you mean. Yeah, that is kind of a problem in games with swappable, bindable skills.
Yeah. I'd rather just have like a modifier with like 5 more bindings behind it or something like that.
How long would you say the game is?
Probably no more than 20 hours. I think I put in like 12 to 15, somewhere in that range. And as far as I could tell on the map, I was pretty much wrapping up the game.
Okay.
So I'm sure like I could probably undershooting that. There's probably like a long ending sequence or something, but yeah, it's a pretty hardy game for a shorter experience. It's a $30 game if you're buying it outright. Obviously, it's on Game Pass because it's a Microsoft game, but
we're not being sponsored by Game Pass, right? Because we do bring it up a lot, and I want to state that we are not in any way.
Yeah, I know. We have to put that disclosure in like anytime we talk about Game Pass because we're both like, oh my god, I'm playing this Game Pass game. It's just yeah.
It's a good service,
value, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good value. It's a good valuable service that we make a lot of use of. Please sponsor us.
Please, oh god. Yeah, no. But yeah,
is it like a rush out and play? I've had a couple of people who've been bugging me to check it out, and I'll be honest, I didn't play the previous one because I don't know. There was just something looking at it, and I was like, that just seems like a lot of thing, and the games I play have less thing. If that makes sense.
It can definitely be emotionally taxing if that's what you mean.
I think that's kind of what I mean.
Yeah, it's definitely that type of experience where you like sort of feel sad and then the music plays into it and the music doesn't stop and then you feel sad for a while and then you're like, god damn it, game, why you make me do this? But then you also get like an adrenaline rush because you're like literally clearing like half a mile while in the air and you're like, oh damn, this is pretty tight movement. So I guess it's a balancing act. But to answer your question, I don't think you need to rush out and play it. I don't think I'd say never play it though. Give it a shot. It's not that long. It can be frustrating. I think that's the thing you need to gear up more for than the emotional part of it. Because by the time you get like halfway through the game, like the bosses are suddenly like bullshit hard. And
so the frustration is just coming from the bosses.
Platforming was mostly it, but I had a lot of frustration with the bosses. There's some challenge platforming that's just like crazy difficult because you're leaping through like it basically becomes Super Meat Boy when it needs to, and you're like, oh, okay. Like it can do that. Like it resets very quickly, so it doesn't. Like it's definitely not the game itself that's making it frustrating. It's just that like sometimes you're fighting 1 or 2 enemies at a time, and you're like, oh, this is a tight experience. Like I'm enjoying combat, and then suddenly it's like, okay, now I need to clear like 5 miles while being chased by this giant fucking bird demon, and if I fuck up at any point in time, it resets all the way to the beginning, and they're right up your ass the whole time. So little things like when you get caught up on like a ledge or something, when you're leaping up, they can end up killing you. Like that's when you're like, yeah.
Okay, I mean, that's a shame because everything you described sounds like something I would hate. So,
yeah. Did you enjoy like Super Meat Boy or
no?
Cuphead?
I think Super Meat Boy and Cuphead are bad games, and no, I don't mean that fully. Like
that's a take.
I got Super Meat Boy. I played probably about 8 hours of Super Meat Boy. It was not my cup of tea. I don't like games that the challenge comes I enjoy a platforming game where the challenge is figuring out how to get there, and not where I can say, oh, okay, I need this, and it's just the execution.
Yeah.
Because I get no joy out of just I fucked it again and again, and it takes me back to like being a kid trying to beat the Star Road levels in Super Mario World. Where, like the first half of it where you're figuring out like, oh, if I go here, then the platform comes out, and the other, that's really clever. And then the second half where it's just precision platforming, and I'm like, oh, I don't like this part anymore. I know what I need to do. I'm just not a robot. Sorry, I'm a 9-year-old boy, and I'm just trying to sit here and eat my berry kicks and have fun. Game, thank you.
Well, you know what the internet has to say about that. Get fucking good.
Yeah, I know. I need to get good, poser. And Cuphead was a similar thing for me. A gorgeous game, very well made, very tight, but just not my style of challenge.
Yeah.
But no, not actually a bad game. Very well game.
You will probably not enjoy Ori and the Will of the Wisps. So if you're like Andrew, this game may not be for you. But for most other people, I'd say put it on easy and enjoy the game.
If you're like Andrew, you might not enjoy this. But for other people, most normal people,
for everyone else,
for people who enjoy fun and whimsy and passion and beautiful things,
and riveting and emotional experiences.
Oh, man, yeah, you're right. This doesn't sound like me at all.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, so some last-minute shotgun thoughts. Some positives to the game. The background had some really cool animations that would integrate with the foreground. So sometimes you'd leap on like a giant gear or something, and you'd see like where it was connected all the way in the background, and like the whole thing would move. I was like, I never seen a mechanic design like that. I was like, oh yeah.
See, no, that sounds really interesting. Yeah, I may end up having to play this.
Make up fucking mind.
It's tough. It's tough.
The mobility was definitely the star of the show. It feels so fluid most of the time. Obviously, it falls down when you're getting chased and in like really tense situations, but for the most part, you're gonna enjoy moving around if not the platforming. And it sets a pretty good pace for abilities, although the abilities get sort of redundant. So you get like a dash at one point, but you can't use it underwater. So then you get an underwater dash as a separate ability. That felt kind of lame. But it did open up other parts of the map, but those other parts were like basically the immediate area you were in, and there was only like one or two other uses for it on the map that I could tell.
So it's not like opening up parts from 2 hours ago.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think I went back and I found like one area that I needed to go through, or not needed. I should go through because it looked like a big missing chunk of the map, and I was like, okay, I should probably use it in there. Check it out. But on the negative side, it was shockingly buggy.
Really?
There were a ton of frame rate drops. I've heard this isn't a problem on PC and mostly an issue with the Xbox version. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist though, so I have to note it. It was very frustrating at times because it would also it crashed a couple times, and I had accidental clipping through walls where I had to find a way to kill myself to reset it because I didn't want to restart the game because I was so far.
Wow.
I mean, it's one of those games where when you start back up, it like brings you back to a checkpoint, not necessarily to the closest ledge you get to.
Ah, okay.
So if you die, you go to the closest ledge. Anyway. But yeah, the frame rate drops were the most noticeable because they were the most frequent. Very early in the game, there was a ton of them, so I was like completely shocked that it made it through fucking QA. I don't know if it was just like a day one patch that completely broke it or what, but yeah, it was. I'd say if you are going to play it, give it a few weeks, check to see if it's gotten patched, then you'll probably enjoy the experience more. Like I already mentioned, it's not always super rewarding. I think I enjoy I liked the abilities were mostly movement based, but I also found myself getting kind of bored with them. Okay, also fuck this bash ability. You have to. It's another movement based ability, but it can also be a damage thing where you have to like time it with a projectile perfectly, and then you can sort of ricochet yourself off the projectile.
Okay, I've played a couple games with stuff like that.
Yeah, so they'll use it in like some of the chase scenes, and it's very, very, very frustrating. It's also it was one of the puzzle solving mechanics that you would keep forgetting existed because it wasn't always clear what you could bash off of. So like there's a part that I completely got stuck on, and it's like, oh, you just have to bash off a fish. And I was like, I can fucking bash off a fish? What the fuck? I never learned that. Literally, it shows you bash, and it's like, oh yeah, just like you see that projectile, you can ricochet off that, and then you have to learn that you can do that with other things too. And it didn't feel very organic. And yeah, if you do decide to play it, I would say play it on easy unless you're sadistic. I played it on normal. I didn't even play it on hard just because I wanted to get through it for the podcast. But on normal, it was still pretty fucking frustratingly hard. And if you've listened to the podcast before, you know I usually like harder challenges, but not platforming hard challenges. And I did not particularly enjoy even the normal challenge on this game. So fair
that's not great.
warning. Yeah, it's a fucking hard game. It's like the Sekiro of platformers.
Wow. Okay. Well, that is a much more nuanced take than a lot of the reviews I've read.
Yeah, it's pretty fresh in my head. I stopped playing it like yesterday. So yeah, that was my experience. I can't say that I will even go back and beat it. I really just every time I got frustrated, I was like, well, at least the game's pretty. And then when I kept getting frustrated, I was like, it doesn't matter. I don't want to play this anymore.
Well, that's something at least.
Yeah. So yeah, the game does not give with both hands.
Okay. It's still going to be up on my list of stuff to check out, but I'm not going to rush to it like I was originally planning.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Don't be surprised if you don't beat it. If you just play like an hour of it, you might enjoy the experience. Be like, wow, this game is beautiful. I see why people like it, and maybe never play again.
That would be nice.
That'd probably be fun. Yeah. All right. That pretty much wraps up the Ori coverage. Shall we move on to Murder by Numbers?
So, Murder by Numbers was, whenever they originally released the video for it, it was one of those games where you look at it and you watch this trailer for it and you think, I think this game was just made directly for me. I'm pretty sure this was made specifically for me to purchase, and if other people bought it, that was fine too. It's a visual novel combined with nonogram-style logic puzzles. Are you familiar with these puzzles?
Is it the Picross style?
Yes, it is. Most commonly known as Picross. You may have played the Picross on DS or 3DS or any of the other ones out there. Konami has a really good Picross game out there, surprisingly, on phones.
I don't know if it's a commonly known format, though, so you may want to explain that anyway.
What you've got is a grid of number, or a empty grid, and the headings for each column, and is it still called the heading if it's in the far left of a row?
You mean like that corner spot?
No, just like everything on the far left of the row. Everything to what would be the heading if it was a column.
Yeah, there's probably a proper name for it, but let's go with heading.
Yeah, the headings for each column and row tell you how many blocks of filled-in spaces there are, and how long each filled-in space is. So if it's a 10 by 10 grid, you could have a row that has a block of 1, and then a block of 3, and then another block of 1. And for them to be distinct blocks, they must have at least one empty space in between them. But that doesn't really tell you 100% where those are in that row of 10. So you have to kind of use some deductive tricks, and much like Sudoku, where you learn the tricks to solve Sudoku puzzles, you kind of learn the tricks to solve nonogram puzzles, and you can go through and they end up making these pretty little pictures. Sometimes there are ones with different colors. I've seen ones that are triangle-based rather than square-based or other shape-based, but that's the general idea. You've got this empty grid, these headings on the columns and rows, and you use that to draw a picture. And it's a fun little game. You also may know them as gridlers, people out there. I've seen them on a number of different... Yeah, there's a gridlers.net was a really good... I don't know if it's still around. Great site for doing these online back in the days of like Java-based games in web.
Does not sound like a safe for work website.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It sounds like it's some sort of weird fetish, doesn't it?
Yeah, or like a McDonald's breakfast sandwich.
I could go for a McGriddler right now.
Always, mate. Fucking always.
So what Murder by Numbers does is that it takes this nonogram logic puzzle and it just kind of shoehorns it into a Phoenix Wright visual novel. You play as Honor, I keep wanting to say Mizrahi, I think it's Mizhari. Honor Mizhari, who is the co-star of a TV show called Murder with Miss Terry. And you start off the game also takes place in LA in 1996, so it has a very 90s aesthetic to it, which is
cool.
Yeah, really nice. That the kind of bright blocks and pastels, like in the intro to Saved by the Bell, that style of 90s design. It's great, and the humor and dialogue and things like that, the objects you interact with are all very 90s as well.
There's a lot of cowabungas for some reason.
Yeah, that style of that you play as Honor. You are recently fired from your job as as the co-star of this detective show, and you come across a robot named Scout who had been thrown away and has no memory of his past, but is going to help you solve a bunch of mysteries. The first one being that the showrunner of your show that you just got fired from has been murdered. You're a suspect, and you're trying to clear your name and also figure out who murdered the showrunner.
Okay.
And there are, I think, 4 or 5 total cases. I haven't finished all of them. I think I'm almost done with the third case, and I think there's 4 total. I could be wrong. The general, if you've ever played one of the Ace Attorney games, it's basically that. Like, as far as the progression through a story. You are in a room, you investigate the room and find individual clues that you can then present to people and get their feedback on. And you'll show them things, and they'll give you some insight, or they'll react in a way that will tell you something about them. Or they'll react in a way that will give you a new location to go to, or a new thing to ask people about. It has that great old adventure game style of, you go talk to a person and you just run through every possible topic.
Yeah.
And so you've got 8 that are very helpful and 13 that are just, I don't know why you're showing me that. I don't know why you're showing me that.
That's graphic, man. I'm a teenager.
Yeah. There's a recurring joke in there with one item that you can show a lot of people that gets those kind of responses. It's very good. And where the nonogram puzzles enter in is when you are searching the room, you are actually searching the room as Scout, the flying robot. And he has a lot of good dialogue, and he can talk to people, he can interact with people, but he has trouble recognizing items. And so when he finds something on the ground that he thinks might be a clue, you do a nonogram puzzle to identify the item, and it'll draw a picture of the lipstick case or the phone or the clipboard or whatever it is, whatever the piece of the clue that you're finding on the ground is.
It's pretty funny. I was wondering how they shoehorned that in.
Yeah, and it is like, this game could completely exist without the nonogram puzzles. You could remove them entirely and just have this be a visual novel. It'd be a much faster game, much shorter.
Well, yeah, sure.
But it would be it would still work. The nonograms really are there just as, that's just where they enter in, is you find an item, you need to identify what it is, and as you progress through the story and progress through each case, you also unlock bonus puzzles that help Scout unlock his backstory. You're unscrambling his memory.
Oh, cool.
And so you get 4 or 5 of those per case, and you slowly learn this backstory of who built Scout, why he was thrown away, why his memory was wiped, all that stuff. It's got a great pedigree on it. It was designed by the writer of Swords of Ditto, Ed Fear. If you ever played that one, that was a great roguelike from, when did that come out? I want to say,
not that long ago.
No.
Year or two ago.
Yeah, 2018. 2018. And it's got the character designer from How to Full Boyfriend, the game. If you remember that one, that was the dating game with pigeons. Yeah,
of course I remember.
And it's got the composer, whose name I'm going to botch, so I apologize ahead of time, Masakazu Sugimori, who did the music for Beautiful Joe, the Phoenix Wright series, and Ghost Trick.
It's a busy man.
Yeah, and if for Did you ever play Phoenix Wright?
Nope. Oh, not even once.
The original one especially. I mean, they all have great music, but the original one was one of those games where the music is a huge part of why it's such a memorable game. And, it just, the music written for it and its use of music was so great that having him doing music for this as well is great. It fits the theme of it very well. He's very talented. So that's it. That's Murder by Numbers. I really don't have anything bad to say about it. Do you have any questions?
Oh yeah, I got some questions.
All right,
Let's see. Why did Sandra Bullock and Ryan Gosling not win Academy Awards for their performances in Murder by Numbers?
That's a great question. And I'm going to tell you that it's mostly because no one saw that movie.
It's still first when you Google Murder by Numbers.
Oh, I know.
I watched the trailer for that first before I watched it for this game.
You have to type Murder by Numbers game.
Well, I couldn't believe that was a movie. And
have you never seen it?
No.
Oh, it's not very good. I confuse it a lot with that one with Morgan Freeman, Along Came a Spider. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I think I saw them at similar times in my mind. Or I think I saw them at similar times in real life, but I confuse them in my mind.
I think that one takes itself a bit more seriously. Murder by Numbers just seems like the dorkiest movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's
It came out in 2002, if that helps paint a picture. It's one of those really corny crime movies that were sort of the same era as, like, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
It was screened at Cannes, apparently.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we've grown as an industry since then.
Yeah.
I guess I should just see it at this point. Talking all this good shit.
Might as well. We'll watch that. We'll review it again next week. We'll talk a bit about Murder by Numbers.
Murder by Numbers off. How does it make you feel when people say Picross and not Picross? Because I saw this in a video and I got very angry myself.
I've always known it as Picross or Gridler or Nonogram or that Japanese puzzle where you make pictures with numbers. Which
because conjunction of picture and cross, right?
That would be my understanding. Yeah.
Cross.
I don't know why it would be Picross. There's nothing that relates to the pastry or the imaginary number or whatever it is, the irrational number. I don't know a lot about numbers.
Do you know how to murder with them now?
Oh, yeah. Well, I know how to murder. Yeah, I guess with them was the right word. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Yeah, no, I don't have too huge feelings about Picross, but it's wrong.
So, is it all mini-games, or is there, like, an investigation aspect, i.e., like, is the story super linear, or is it sort of like how I understand Phoenix Wright to be, where you can just miss clues? I guess I'm thinking more of L.A. Noire, where you can just miss clues and sort of fuck up an investigation. Can that happen? It's
definitely more linear than... Because, like, Phoenix Wright had those kind of almost like tests in the courtroom, where you could fail, and you don't really have that as much here. It's not... Because Phoenix Wright, there were a number of points where you could fail an investigation. And just because you didn't ask the right questions, I don't remember if it would allow you to get to courtroom without all the stuff you needed, though. I think, this game as well, I don't think it will allow you to get to a point where you could fail without all the information you have. There's no dead man walking situations in here like you would have in other adventure games or visual novels.
You can definitely do that in L.A. Noire.
Oh, yeah.
You could just get back in your car and be like, I've seen enough here, and then go to interrogate and be like, so, did you do it? Oh, you didn't? Oh, shit.
Come on, please.
Come on, man. Do me a solid here.
Yeah, this definitely had the feel... there was never a moment where I didn't have all the clues that I needed. That wasn't part of the story, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I don't think that'll ever happen. It's much more linear, and it's much more like it's for anyone who's played Phoenix Wright. The investigation is very much that: enter a room, look around the room for clues by just literally just moving around the static image of a room, finding areas that you can interact with, and then going to the people who are in that room and saying, "Hey, I found this clipboard. What is it? I found this glass of water. What is it? I found this murder weapon. What is it?" And then getting the responses and going from there.
So you said that this game was made for you and you alone.
Mm-hmm.
Did it meet your expectations?
100%. This 100% what I was hoping it would be, which was a Phoenix Wright game that had nanograms just kind of clumsily but not painfully shoehorned in there. There were actually more of them than I was expecting. I've played a lot of games in the solitaire match 3 genre that claim to be story, some mystery that you solve by playing solitaire or doing match 3 or doing super collapse or something. And it's never really the case. It's usually like, here's a random match 3 game board that we just threw out for you, and if you solve it, we'll show you the next part of the story. Like, there's never any cohesion between the two. And Murder by Numbers probably did the best possible way you could do it, which was just you're drawing a picture of the thing you're trying to identify. Is it?
Oh yeah, that's a skull.
Yep. Yeah, there it is. It looked like a skull on the ground. I've identified it as a skull. That's some dude's skull. We should get it back to him.
A man died, Andrew. Take this seriously.
It could have just been that his skull fell out. Also happens.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's why they call us sack faces.
Yeah, but that in that regard, it definitely did. It almost exceeded my expectations in that it was able to find a way to weave the two together. Because I was expecting, here is an adventure, here's a mystery visual novel, and at some point you have to do a puzzle just to progress, and it is that. But they found a way to at least make it make sense in the story.
Yeah. Well, sounds surprisingly fun, especially for maybe morning commute play. This is a Switch game, Switch and PC. You know what it's on?
Switch and PC, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
yeah, it
Switch
sounds like a really good Switch game.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed it for Switch. It's because it is story based, you kind of can't play it for 5 minutes. You kind of want to give yourself a little bit of a session. But if you've got like a half-hour commute, you could easily jump in, do a little bit of story. It's not a game that you have to get to a specific save point, and because it's on Switch, you can just lock the Switch and go about your day.
Yeah, that's handy.
Yeah, with that's one of I really like playing narrative heavy or adventure story games on Switch for that reason. You can just lock the device and put it away and come back to it later.
Yeah, right.
Which I'm guessing you can't just Alt F4 the game and have it save your place exactly on PC. But I think it's available on Steam.
Yeah, that's where I watched the trailer, so it's definitely available.
Oh, okay.
Not, unless they pulled it and then put it on the Epic Game Store since then, but, weirder things have happened these days.
Yes. Yes, they have. It's $15. $15 on Steam, which I would say it's worth it. If it sounds like something you would enjoy, like if you're hearing, oh, it's a new Phoenix Wright type game, and that sounds cool, and you don't hate the idea of those puzzles, it's definitely worth $15.
How long of an experience would you say it is?
Maybe 10?
That's a pretty good amount of time for $15.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because again, I don't remember which case I'm on.
Would there be any replayability for you to go and have a second playthrough?
Oh wow, no, they're actually saying 19. Wow, okay, so 19 to 20 hours. Yeah. So I'm only about halfway through then, apparently. I don't think there is replayability for these kind of games. I've waited for the day when I forget enough of the first Phoenix Wright game that I can play it again. It's been a decade, and I haven't. I really want to play through that game again with a clear head, and it's just never going to happen.
Damn shame.
Yeah, and it's so story-based, and so, it's a mystery, so there's something in the reveal and the twists and the way it wraps itself up that if you go through it again, you're looking for the strings.
Yeah. No new game plus then.
No,
I
unfortunately not.
don't know what that would be in that game.
Going through and solving scouts difficult puzzles, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I don't know how people can play through. You remember those 999 games that came out back in 2006, 2007? 9 doors, 9 stories, 9 lives.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and whatever that series of games, because those also have like 12 endings, and they're so long and so dialogue and text heavy. I can't imagine going through those multiple times.
Yeah, I think I'd rather just play a board game at that point.
Yeah, I went through 999 once, got a horrible ending. I was like, well, I guess I lost that game.
I lose. Game is better than me.
Better bring this over to GameStop and call it a day.
All right. Shall we rank these bad boys?
Yeah, let's do it.
Unless you had any final thoughts.
No, I think it's pretty. I think what I've said is pretty much what I meant to say.
All right. And so now that we have separate lists, where's this fallen on your 2 games?
This is falling at number 1. This has knocked Elderborn down to the bottom place of 2.
Yeah. Ori also is going to knock down Bleeding Edge for obvious reasons. If you haven't listened to our previous episode 27, I have some things to say about Bleeding Edge, so check that one out. Also, if you're curious about Elderborn,
you'd be in the minority, I think.
Hey, man.
Yeah, good game.
I was kind of interested in it after we talked about it.
Yeah.
That happens a lot on the show. That's one of the good things I get out of this experience. Final thoughts for episode 28?
No, I think that's about it.
Check out social media, Twitter, Facebook, pretty much everything is Game Off Podcast, at Game Off Podcast. Follow us for, updates when we drop new episodes, teasers for the next episodes, retweeting some of our personal thoughts on current affairs. It's always fun. Also, we appreciate the support, obviously. Give us some love,
We'd appreciate that. Just let us know you're out there, that we're touching hearts.
Yeah. Figuratively.
Yeah.
Literally, we only touch penises.
No,
That's our show. You wait, you don't? No, too late.
No.
Andy touches penises. Good night, everybody. Goodbye.
Oh, no.